Being told you need to have chemo are still some of the most scariest words that a cancer patient can receive. I'm Kirstin Nussgruber from Kirstin'sCancerCare.com, and I'm also a 2 times breast cancer survivor, and I have been on both sides. I support clients go through treatments and move beyond and thrive beyond treatments, and that includes chemotherapy. But I've also been a patient, and once you have a cancer diagnosis, you will remain a cancer patient to a degree for the rest of your life. So I wear both caps. And with that in mind, I'm going to share a few tips with you today how you can get ready for this ordeal. Chemotherapy is still the gold standard in many cancer treatment regimens, particularly the ones that are actually treatable, curable. And that's where I'd like to kind of start. So today, I'm just focusing on some tips to get you ready for chemotherapy, to help you prepare for it and help you through chemotherapy. The discussion isn't so much going to concentrate on should we be doing chemotherapy, but I need to touch on it just a little bit because it feeds into what I'm going to be telling you. So I like to approach cancer care from an integrative point of view, and that means you have to consider all the options that are out there. And sometimes chemotherapy is actually beneficial, but we need to be very mindful of that, in which cases this applies, and just educate ourselves. It really depends on the type of cancer you have. It depends on the stage that your cancer is in, the size of your tumors. It also depends on your age and your overall health as well. So there are a lot of factors that feed into whether or not you should be receiving chemo. But nevertheless, if you are about to receive chemotherapy, here are a few things that are absolutely important for you to do from an integrative point of view. Now, when I work closely with my clients, there are certain supplements as well that we can focus on that do not interact with your chemotherapy. And that's really our job. It's the job of someone like myself, a nutritionist specializing in oncology nutrition, but there are also functional doctors out there, functional oncologists or integrative oncologists, and naturopathic doctors specializing in oncology that really support you alongside your conventional medical team to make sure that the chemotherapy is more effective and that the side effects, the debilitating side effects, some of them are short-term, some of them are long-term, we want to kind of tamper them down. And we can do that. We can reduce the severity of the side effects with our certain protocols as well. It's really, really amazing what we can do. And your conventional oncologist just hasn't been educated in this. So just understand that there sometimes is a bit of discrepancy here. But it really is our job to help you through treatments, make them more effective, not have any drug-nutrient interactions, but help you cope. Because there is a health side inside of you still, despite the cancer, that we can support. So your conventional oncology team supports the disease side of you. We support the health side of you. And there's a lot we can do here. So going back to what can you do to prepare for chemotherapy? Well, what are the things that you can do before you have your very first chemotherapy session? And the first thing is you buy some time. You do not need to start chemotherapy tomorrow. In most cases, your cancer has been developing for quite some time, and you can really get your life in order, prepare a little bit so that you can face chemotherapy in a more strengthened frame of mind. So the first thing that really I like to do with my clients is we want to make sure, what is your terrain like right now? Do you suffer from any nutritional deficiencies that we can test for? And there are certain functional tests, micronutrient tests that we can do before you have chemo. Once you start chemo, those tests are not going to be as effective. So it's very important to get that done before you start any chemotherapy session. Why is this important? If you're already suffering from certain nutritional deficiencies, we need to target those with nutrition and with certain targeted supplements as well that again work won't interact with your chemotherapy, but we can often do that in conjunction with your chemotherapy, because otherwise, imagine chemotherapy is still very, very, very toxic, and it's going to really suppress your immunity and cause a lot of other side effects. So if you're already deficient in certain nutrients, let's work on those. Let's try and get that up and support your body through that while you're going through this toxic treatment that is going to affect your liver and your kidneys in particular, your two of your main detoxifying organs as well. So let's make sure that your body has nutrient density. That takes me to my next point as well, and that is lower your expectations on your own performance. We are in today's world really doing so many things, especially as women, and we are constantly on the go. We are superheroes. We schedule our days full, and it's often just the way life is. Well, when we go through chemotherapy, we are going to not be able to continue like that. And many of us cancer patients think we can. Often it's the people around us who understand that we can't, and we are the last resort that kind of stick to, no, we got to keep our face up. We got to be strong for the family, for the kids. And I'm saying to you, you need to carve out some time between 25 and 50% in which you lower the expectations on what you can get done. It is what it is. So that means rearranging your schedule. That means delegating. And that's going to be my next point as well. It just means you need to understand you're not going to be able to perform at the same level. So if you are wanting to continue to work, and you could necessarily do that, just make sure that the expectations are turned down. You cannot cope with the same demands that you make on yourself if you are normal and not going through chemotherapy. So just accept that. It's as simple as that. The next step really is in that you need to delegate liberally and specifically. So I know many of us do not like to ask for help. This is a time when we need to understand that if that is an issue for us, we need to get rid of that, address that. We need to ask for help, and let's ask for very specific help. People around you will be offering help. They want to help you. Some people will be very proactive and will bring you things. Others will be standing back and saying, you tell me what you need and then I will deliver. People react differently. So use that to your advantage. You're not being difficult. You're not being a pain. You're not being a burden to anybody. Understand that you need very specific things. And when I work with my clients, we come up with lists, very specific lists, so that the help that you receive is actually what you really need. People are well-meaning, but if you get meals that you can't really eat, it's not going to be of help to you, right? Or if you get meals that will just be good for the family, but not for you, it's not really of any help to you. So let's figure out what specifically you need and give instructions to the people around you that are ready and willing to help you. Very, very important point. And then finally, what to do before your first chemo as well is we need to create some time to practice mindfulness. Now, you might be thinking, at this time of my life, I can't sit down and meditate. And I hear you, because I had the same problem. My mind just didn't calm down enough to be able to just really sit in stillness. So I used a different approach, and that is using listening to something calming, and that's called guided imagery or guided visualization. It takes you to a place, it talks you through mindfulness, and that's a very, very effective tool for the cancer patient who's about to go through chemotherapy, is freaking out, and just needs to have an anchor away from everybody else where you can just retreat to. You have earphones in your head and you're listening to some mindfulness. And there are a couple of good suggestions I have, especially healthjourneys.com is an incredibly valuable website as well that offers really, really good downloadable or CDs or just MP3s as well, just to help you through this important time. And then make the time. It makes a huge, huge difference. Trust me, it really, really does, because we need something that pulls us out of this mind that is racing and just, we are not ourselves. Any one of you who can identify with that, if you've been a cancer patient and you've been going through conventional treatments, you will not quite be yourself. You're not going to function yourself. You're not going to think yourself. It's a very, very trying time. So we need that little anchor. And there again, delegate. Ask people to buy you these CDs or MP3 downloads, or just make a donation so that you can afford those downloads. They're not very expensive at all, $7 or $11. So really, it really is very, very much worthwhile to do that. So that's to do. Just a couple of tips before starting chemotherapy in general. But what about before every chemotherapy? Are there certain things that you can do before every single chemotherapy? And this is when we receive chemotherapy as an infusion and we go in on a particular day. There are different styles of chemotherapy. There are oral chemotherapies, pills that you get every single day. They are not as debilitating very often. People continue working throughout them. Then there are some chemotherapy sessions where you actually have to be in the hospital for a couple of days and you really are incapacitated for that period of time. But in general, we receive chemotherapy as a form of infusion once every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every week. It really depends on your particular chemo cocktail and regimen. But one of the things that you can do before every chemotherapy, if you're receiving it at a specific time, and that is fasting. So we can use the power of our biochemistry, the power of our body, to create an environment that actually weakens cancer cells but strengthens healthy cells. And the reason why fasting does that is because cancer cells are pretty rudimentary the way they need to produce energy, and they are reliant on, most of them are reliant on certain nutrients, in particular glucose, sometimes on fatty acids as well, and even certain amino acids, but in general, they're reliant on glucose. Now, healthy cells can switch over. If we so-called starve the body of nutrients, then for healthy cells, they have ways and means of getting that glucose, getting those nutrients so that they can still continue with energy production, but cancer cells can't. So it stresses them out. And that's perfect for when you're introducing the cytotoxic effects of chemotherapy that's supposed to kill cells as they are dividing. So imagine having weakened cancer cells so that the chemotherapy can become more effective. And you can do that by fasting. So the absolute minimum should be 13 hours, preferably 24 or even 48 hours before a chemotherapy infusion. And many of my clients can really successfully do that. So it's a really great way of making sure that the treatments can be more effective, and it strengthens your body from within too. You can drink liquids during that time. You can drink certain nourishing liquids as well, like bone broths or vegetable broths. They even have electrolytes in them. So there are ways and means to help you through that, and we go through that with, I go through that with my clients when we get to that point as well. Secondly, what else should you do before every chemotherapy session? That is hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. You need to double the amount of liquids that you take in, and you best start about 2 days before a chemotherapy infusion, and you continue on infusion day. So the kind of standard is that you should be consuming, from a liquid point of view, about half an ounce for every pound of body weight that you have. So if you are weighing, let's say, 130 pounds, it should be roughly 64 ounces that you should be taking in liquids, clear liquids. So coffee, anything, doesn't count. Tea does count. Water counts as well. Herbal teas counts as well. So you want to double that. Why? Because you really want to support your kidneys. All the toxicity from the chemotherapy is going to be broken down, and your kidneys are going to filter that. You want to support them to prevent some kidney damage as well, and it's called nephrotoxicity, when the kidneys become intoxicated, basically. So help your kidneys. Yes, it means you need to go to the bathroom a couple of times and even doing infusion, but that's what you're supposed to be doing anyway. Doing infusion is keep on moving. So just make sure you have a portable infusion rod and take those trips to the bathroom. Take a lot of water with you, preferably in your own containers, not in the plastic bottles, of course. We don't want to have more toxicity added to the body, but make sure that you hydrate. Keep a little tally. I did that to encourage myself and to get to the point where I wanted to go. Each time I had a glass of water, I put a little tally up there. And the 2 days before chemo, And it really made a difference because you bounce back faster. That's the thing, is you recover faster from the chemotherapy. You're really helping your body cope with the toxicity of the chemotherapy while you're not interfering with its effectiveness at all by doing that. And then thirdly, before a chemotherapy session, you want to focus on nutrient-dense food. All right, so you need some prep time to make sure that you have foods such as soups, such as soft foods, broths. You want to have your vegetable broths or bone broths, and those things are also things that you can basically delegate out. And I give my clients recipes and say, ask your friends to prepare this or that. If you can say to one of your friends or family members, can you just prepare the soup for me? They'll be too happy to do that for you because you've given them very specific instructions, even with the recipe, to do that. And that is absolutely valuable because then you have what you need available to you. Your appetite will diminish, so that's okay. So whatever you take in, you want that to be as nutrient dense as possible. And by just preparing a little bit ahead, you can get that done. There's certain power snacks you can have as well, because you do not want to eat the snacks that they offer in most chemotherapy centers. They are usually full of hydrogenated oils. They're full of sugary treats. You really don't want to do that. You really want to prepare your own. There are certain low carb power snacks that use nut butters, that don't use coconut oil and coconut butter. So there are really some good wholesome snacks that you can prepare ahead of time, freeze them even. And again, that's something you can ask your friends to do as well. Smoothies, of course, or shakes. That's a great way to add some powders, protein powders too, because your protein need increases. Some greens powders too, if you just can't face eating the leafy greens, which we're supposed to be doing. And, when we're going through chemotherapy, we struggle with that. All right. But you can use greens powders or even the greens themselves and make them nice and creamy by adding avocado or adding a dairy alternative milk like coconut milk, even full fat coconut milk, to help you stay nourished and prevent weight loss because your appetite is diminished. So you only need to eat a little bit of these nutrient-dense foods, but you're getting a lot of nutrients at the same time. And finally, during chemotherapy, I cannot stress this enough, move around. You do not want to be sitting in that chemotherapy chair all the time. Even if you're feeling a bit woozy, even if you're starting to get fatigued already, you want to move around. And as soon as you get home, keep on moving. Why? Because your lymphatic system is a connection of lymph nodes and lymph vessels. They can work and filter out the lymphatic fluid, which filters out waste products, even toxic products from chemotherapy. They can only function with muscle contraction, and that only happens if you are moving. You need to move your muscles, so keep on moving. In some of the integrative cancer centers, they actually have like exercise bikes or treadmills in the chemotherapy infusion room to encourage patients to move. You don't need to be running or any extensive movement, just movement. Keep your body moving. And the same as when you get home, you're probably going to feel nauseous, you're going to feel fatigued, unless you are taking all the supplements we recommend and the other help that we suggest you can do, because that can really tamper down those side effects. But even then, try and move. And even if you can just walk down to the mailbox and back, if that's all you can muster up in those few days after chemo, that's what you do. Try and do that a couple of times a day. So important. Keep on hydrating throughout your chemotherapy treatment as well. Again, you've got a portable infusion rod, so just trek back and forwards and consider that movement too, to the bathroom. And again, I said that before, but bring your own food. Don't rely on that food. It really causes inflammation. It's not the food you should be focusing on. So listen to your oncology nutritionist when they tell you what are good snacks to be able to have. Just like I said, chia seed pudding, for example, is so easy to make. You just take your chia seeds and you take a liquid, and that can be a unsweetened dairy alternative milk, coconut milk, for example. You can add a little bit of cinnamon to that, maybe a little bit of pure vanilla essence, no sugar, and you can prepare that the night before, and that's a really wholesome, nutritious, soft, light little snack that you can snack on throughout the day that you're getting chemo as well, and even afterwards. All right. So please know there's so many things you can do to make chemotherapy more acceptable is a wrong term, but that you can survive it better. You can see there are many of us, many thriving survivors. We've all gone through chemotherapy. I know it sucks, but with this help, targeted help, get yourself a team on board. If you rely only on your conventional oncology team, the support is just not there. So it really, really, really is worth your while considering stepping outside the box, considering an integrative approach, and hiring nutritionists that specialize in oncology nutrition, or even an integrative doctor as well to work alongside your conventional oncology team. That's the way to do it, and that's the way to really get through this and emerge from that in a more strengthened way than if you don't do that. And I see it time and time again. And even the oncology nurses will comment on those clients of mine that are implementing all the things that I recommend, saying, they bounce back faster, they're in better spirits, they're doing better, they don't need to interrupt the chemotherapy sessions, they can continue so that the end date is in sight. So again, there's a lot you can do. And if you would like more information, I'm going to be posting a nice long blog soon on this topic as well at Kirstin'sCancerCare.com. I also have a YouTube channel. You can see other videos of me there, always sharing some tips for you. Follow me on Facebook as well, where I am right now. A lot of helpful information is posted there. And I also have a program, First Steps to Take Control of Your Cancer Care, which if you don't want to enter into a coaching relationship, you can at least hop on board there and do a self-guided program or course to get you started as a first step. So take care for now.